back in the studio here with me, CBS 2's political reporter Marcia Kramer, along with political consultant O'Brien Murray. Boy, a lot to talk about here, Marcia.
Well, first, I think we should add about the concerns about security. What I'm also told by sources in the NYPD and the mayor's office is that they're also going to be having large numbers of police officers guarding the bridges and tunnels on both ends, from every place, from Long Island, from Queens, from Brooklyn, and also from New Jersey, because they're concerned about the protest being one where they're going to slow down traffic. But let's go to the politics for a second, because one thing that happened after Trump said, I'm going to be indicted, after Mr. Trump said he was going to be indicted last Tuesday, his polls shot up. There was a Morning Consult poll where he doubled his support. He was at 56%. And then Ron DeSantis, who was breathing down his neck, was now at 24%.
Yeah, that was interesting.
So this stunning thing happened in just a matter of days. Why did that happen?
It's the martyr, and it's DeSantis having been out there for a couple of weeks and not landing a punch and not getting the credibility and visibility. Nobody knows who DeSantis is outside Florida. And then as he starts,
but how could he land a punch when we don't really know what the charges are, and do you really want to get involved in this before you know what's going to happen?
Well, I think that's DeSantis' problem. He
doesn't even use his name, does he?
No, he doesn't want to mention it. Which is another question itself. But he's got a turnover in staff also.
But the former president had no problems mentioning him in tweet after tweet after tweet, calling him Ron DeSanctimonious and going after him at time and time again, and saying, I created him.
Yeah, he said he was crying for his support, right? That when he begged for run for governor, when he was running for governor. But the challenge here is really, how does someone like DeSantis stay in the news? And his numbers will stay flat, if not go down, and Trump's numbers
But the thing is, this is sort of uncharted territory. You've never had a former president charged, but you've also never had a presidential candidate who's charged in an indictment. You've had people who've, had to get out of a race, because things were happening, like Gary Hart and people like that, who had to leave the race.
You had Chris Christie with his issue. It wasn't an indictment, but it was an issue about what was going on with the tunnel, with the bridge, rather. Yeah,
but you've never had somebody who's actually faced criminal charges.
Harry had an issue with governor when he was doing that, when there was an indictment with him in Texas at that point. So there is history of it being around campaigns, but not to this level.
But not a presidential campaign.
Correct.
I mean,
what
happens?
It is uncharted territory, but again, a lot of the basics that we all know is we can't tear him down, because then his supporters won't come to me.
Does he have to pause his campaign or stop campaigning because he's now been indicted?
No, absolutely not.
Why?
And he won't. His lawyers may tell him to if it's something he's going to put his foot in his mouth, but because you can't contain that. You can't contain Mr. Trump.
Any chance that he could have to speak, the cameras would come, and that's a campaign opportunity.
Off the phone, off Twitter, off anything he can, or any of the social media he would be on. The rules of law are one thing. The rules of politics are another. In this case, it's not the win, it's the spin. It goes back to what we said before. And it's all about
not the win, it's the spin.
It's the spin. And so right now, it's the indictment.
Okay, so you're a spin meister. What's the spin? If you were advising him, what's your spin?
Yeah.
I'd be on TV tonight, 11 o'clock news. I control from 11 to 11:30, give his speech, and my attorneys would tell me not to do it, and I do it anyway.
And what would you say?
Oh, he'd be talking about being persecuted. He'd be talking about great things he's done in the White House. He's going to try to, if he was, he'd spin it into also his great record, and also use that opportunity and pivot. Whether he would do that or not, pivot to all the great things he did.
We talk about, Cheryl Bader brought up a possibility, what a change of venue. We know downstate Democratic, upstate Republican. I mean, how could that even happen? And what effect would that have on other elected officials and campaigns?
DeSantis going to Long Island? Was he just there? He's going there.
I'm not sure.
He was
just there. So there was a crowd out there for DeSantis in Long Island.
And there was a crowd out there for DeSantis when he was in Staten Island 2 weeks ago.
Right. So he's been around the New York area. I mean, Trump could go to Staten Island. He could do that. That's the closest way to go right now to get a bunch of Republicans. You're not going to get it in Westchester as much.
But I mean, if it becomes, and it does continue on through the process, the arraignment, the trial, if it does that.
Hey, listen, if I were Donald Trump's lawyers, I would want to be tried in Steuben County. That is the county where, when they had the reapportionment, when the districts had to be reapportioned, they sent it to Steuben County. They redrew the lines, and as a result, many more Republicans were elected to Congress because of that.
Do you know the one congressman that went up there to testify? Richie Torres from the Bronx.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
Yes. But that's the jury you're talking about.
O'Brien.
Only question for him.
Ovi, thank you so much. Stick around. It's a long evening here because there's a lot to talk about. Marcia, stay here. It's been a historic day in the news. Again, a Manhattan grand jury voted to indict former President Donald Trump on criminal charges involving payments made during the 2016 presidential campaign to adult film star Stormy Daniels. This is a first. A former president charged with a crime he has denied any wrongdoing, innocent until proven guilty. A lot of questions as to when the former president will surrender, will be here back in New York. The process also of the legal process into the arraignment. So many questions. Right now, we know the plane is still on the tarmac in Palm Beach, Florida. We'll have updates on CBS News New York, as well as CBSNewYork.com and Channel 2. I'm Dana Tyler. Good night. Thank you for joining us. Stay with us.